Hello there. I welcome you to this episode of our ICAN on Air interactive series. Today, we shall be examining the role of accountants in a digital economy. So, yeah, digital economy. It's a specialized economy that is developing rapidly all over the world. Indeed, it is the single most important driver of innovation, competitiveness, and growth, with humongous potential for entrepreneurs and small and medium scale businesses, those we call SMEs. These digital economy developments affect entire system of information support for socio-economic processes in which our field of accounting has traditionally played a significant role with its functionality, of collecting, of processing, and of providing economic information about the activities of economic entities. And joining me on our guest interview segment to deepen our understanding of this subject is Mr. Ademola Adebise. Mr. Ademola Adebise is the managing director of WEMA Bank Plc. And before this current role, he was the head of the finance and performance management practice at Accenture Lagos office, where he led various projects to banks in business process re-engineering, information technology, and risk management, and so on and so forth. We shall unveil more on our esteemed guests shortly. And also on this segment of the program today, we will be having a few video shots on adverts. We'll be talking a bit of tit and bit about ICAN, our membership, and what we are about. Please stay connected. We shall be back with you very shortly. Yes, Mr. Ademola Adebise, welcome to ICAN on Air. Nice to have you.
Thank you very much.
Beautiful. And I know that apart from our professional colleagues, who are listening to us, both home and in the diaspora. We also have business enthusiasts, people who are not necessarily accountants, but they are movers and shakers. And therefore, I will want you, Mr. Adebise, by way of a general overview into this subject, to let us into who are accountants and what is their role in business.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fatunke. Thanks for inviting me to this program. I will start by saying that an accountant is a professional who is responsible for keeping and interpreting financial records. Most accountants are responsible for a wide range of finance related tasks, either for individual clients or for large organizations. Although the daily duties of an accountant will vary from one organization to the other, but what you see in most cases are responsibilities in the areas of maybe audit, ensuring the accuracy of financial documents, as well as the compliance with relevant laws and regulations, preparing and maintaining important financial reports, preparing tax returns and ensuring the taxes are paid properly and on time, evaluating the operations of the organization and ensuring that it's in line with best practice, identifying issues, offering guidance on costs management, revenue enhancement, and profit maximization. And generally, doing forecasts and risks analysis assessments. So basically, in a nutshell, you want to look at an accountant like an elephant in a room. Depends on the area you are touching, whether it's the trunk or the tail or the leg. There is one activity or the other. So the accountant is quite strategic to every organization. Thank you. Mr. Fatunke, are you there? It looks like Mr. Fatunke is offline. It looks like Anchor is offline. So basically, as I said, the roles of the accountants multifaceted. An accountant will ensure the accuracy of financial documents as well as compliance with relevant laws and regulations. prepare and maintain important financial reports, prepare tax returns and ensure that the taxes are paid on time, evaluate operations of the organization to ensure that things are done according to best practice, um, managing things around cost management, revenue enhancement, and profit maximization, conducting forecasting and risk analysis assessments. Basically, these are some of the roles of an accountant, and it depends on the area you are operating within the organization. Talking about the digital economy, which is the crux of today's topic, if I would talk about the impact of the digital economy on business, I would say that it's the topic is very apt for our times. In fact, the digital economy is commonly referred to as the fourth industrial revolution, and it has a lot of positive effects. Yes, it creates opportunities for new jobs, and that is why, as accountants, we must be very dynamic to pick up new skills that the digital economy provides. It also enhances collaboration. Gone are the days where everybody was operating in silos. But today, with the digital economy, you need to operate collaboratively. We talk about ecosystems. There are various players within an ecosystem. We have the company, we have the governments, we have the consumers who consume, we have the manufacturers and all that. And all these have to be connected. The internet is the pipeline under which all these will operate as an ecosystem. What is also important with the digital economy is that business models are being challenged every day. Business models are being challenged every day. The way we do things is changing by the day. Today, we see companies operating on the net who are real estate companies. We see companies like Airbnb. Uh, it's a real estate company but operates on the internet. Um, we see e-commerce companies selling goods and services on the net. Quite a number of things, and these models, the business models, are changing by the day. So every day, and it's amazing. What you also see is that consumer tastes and preferences are changing by the day. We have the millennials, the young ones who really want to do things without leaving their comfort zone. So the digital economy ensures that all these things are easily brought together. It can be differentiated from the traditional economy. In the traditional economy, we talk about the factors of production. We say labor, capital, market, land, and all that. But one factor that is included in the digital economy is the internet gateway. So basically, that is what you see. We see today where businesses are being, the models are changing based on the way payment systems are made, the way you make payment. In those days, you pay by cash, you pay by check. But today, you pay through several means. You pay through your card, you pay through NQR codes, you pay through virtually several things, online, real time. The way marketing is done digitally today is quite different from the way it used to be done in those days. And I'll talk a bit more about that as we go on in the program. Today, we
Thank
talk about data. Data is the new oil. We say data is the new oil.
you.
There's We sit on a massive amount of data, but this data, they have patterns and they tell us things, insights. They give us insights to take decisions. So data is very, very big. We talk about things around artificial intelligence, machine learning, blockchain, virtual reality, and all that. All these technologies come together to enhance the digital economy. And we continue to see these how this is changing business models every day. We see the
Super.
proliferation of fintechs coming in and doing providing various services across the different value chains. So basically,
Super overview.
this is what you see in terms of the impact of the digital economy on businesses.
I'm happy. I'm happy you've been able to differentiate all that digital economy and the other normal economy. But I'd like to ask you, says the accounting standard in providing guidance in this digital economy we are talking about?
Okay, talking about accounting standards, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Well, today the beauty about it today is that accounting standards are changing with the times. But the truth of the matter is that the digital economy is moving pretty faster. So what we have as accounting standards practices today um, needs to continuously be tweaked to ensure that we're able to cater for the fast-moving digital economy.
Mm,
Uh, the standards that we have were prepared based on the assumptions that buyers will meet the sellers.
mm, mm,
You know, fill requisition forms, for example, um, seller issues invoice, pay cash or check, by cash or check, and all that. And then way bills are prepared. I'm speaking specifically now to the roles of accountants in handling things around sales, invoicing, payables and receivables, and all that. So this is what you see in the traditional, the old way of doing things. But business models have changed to the point that everything is done digitally today.
mm,
So
mm.
basically, all the things I've talked about, everything happens within 3 seconds. In actual
Good.
fact,
Good.
so that is what you see. So in terms of existing standards, they may not fully adequately provide for
Mm,
the nature of the business in the new era. But again, the beauty of it, my comfort is the fact that a number of these standards are being reviewed to uh, take cognizance of the modern ways of doing business.
beautiful.
It also allow for standardization of process for doing e-commerce and possibly specify the security baselines. Because again, in the digital economy, yes, it's improving efficiency, but then again, the threat of cyber security is there. So some of these standards also must be put in place to ensure that we are adequately protected. Thank
Thank you
you.
very much, Mr. Adebise. I know in your overview you might have touched on that, but I just still want to dig a bit deeper. That will you consider digital economy, its impact on business, which is flying out there, especially in accounting, a positive trend?
Well, yeah, it is very, very positive. Yes, of course, there are the other sides of it, which the threats, but then I would say it's more positive than negative, um, in the sense that the reality is that things are changing very fast. Roles are changing, so accountants also must ensure that they change with the times.
Mm, mm,
The information highway, the amount of information being processed today is huge. So you can imagine if we're still doing these things manually. So the population of the world is increasing, transactions are happening split seconds. um, Manually it will be very difficult to. So for me, I believe that the impact of the digital economy is positive in the sense that digitization is the way to go. It's the reality today, and we need to have the necessary skills to ensure
mm,
that we continue to be relevant as a consultant, as accountants.
yeah,
So really that is where I see it. Now, if you look at the events of the last 1 year, the COVID pandemic, um, even has gone to show even further that the impact of the digital economy is very positive. A
mm,
number of organizations switched into virtual mode and
mm,
started operating. It would not have been easy to do that, but
mm,
for the fact that the where we have the digital economy, all the necessary tools and gadgets are in place, all the processes already reviewed, and all that. So otherwise, it will have been a complete shutdown of the global economy if it
mm,
hasn't been um, the fact that everybody was already getting ready. In the
mm,
banking system, for example, I mean, the treasury system, the treasury departments were working completely remotely, 100%. You know, operations teams were working, partly remotely, and all these things were based on the fact that we already had all the investments in technology to ensure that we're able to provide services in a remote manner to
mm,
our customers. And one beauty about accounting is in those days you write vouchers, today inputs, entries are generated through various means,
mm,
and it goes into the ERP or the enterprise resource planning tools, and everything flows into the respective areas, whether it's fixed assets, whether it's your receivables, and all that. So you can handle your payables, your receivables very, very easily. Everything flowing through the system without manual intervention. So
mm,
it is extremely positive. However, it also has the negative side of it. Just like anything in life, must have pros and cons. The other side of it is, which is also for me, I think, is an opportunity. Is the fact that yes, there's the increasing rise in cybersecurity, threats, cyber frauds, and all that, because we are all collaborating. In those days, we were all operating as silos. So the
mhm,
ability of a hacker, for example, hacking into your system was very
mm,
limited because
mm,
everybody was operating in silos, no
mm,
connectivity. But
mm,
under the digital economy, we have the internet, which is the pipeline that connects everybody, you
mm.
know, and then people can easily move freely if your security is not intact. So basically,
Excellent.
for me, in summary, I think it's positive to the profession and to businesses.
Interesting, Mr. Davis, say you put it that way. So we have more of positives. Okay, maybe risks, the risk analysis aspect of it, a few negatives. But as far back as 2015, industry leaders were sounding the dead knell for accountants, really convinced that the emerging technologies, particularly automation, will end in death to that profession by the digital for accountancy as we know it, as we knew it, and as we know it. What is your take on that?
Well, I would say that, as I said in my opening remarks in terms of the role of an accountant,
Hmm,
the accountant is very, very core to the operation of any organization, and they play several roles.
hmm,
Now, to say that the profession is going to be threatened, I would say no. Rather, what I would say is that technology will support. It will not replace accountants.
hmm, hmm, hmm,
Um,
hmm.
so basically, for me, I think as professionals, we need to ensure that we adapt and not get replaced.
Oh,
And in
yes.
adapting, we need to ensure that we understand the new technologies that is available. For example, an integrated environment. that can collaborate with peers from other business units. You know, you need to be able to collaborate with uh, peers from other business units. We have financial data, you know, that we can also leverage on to create innovation, a lot of innovation
mm,
by reading the patterns in those data.
mm,
I think also building a very agile supply chain, because we talk about supply chains and more resilient systems. So these are opportunities, and I believe that accountants can transform into beyond just bookkeeping, keeping payroll, which are the mundane things that we're used to historically as accountants. We're going
mm,
to move into knowledge workers, where we'll be able to make insightful decisions based on
mm,
the huge amount of data that we are
mm,
sitting on. You know,
mm,
in addition to, of course, making sure our processes are very efficient,
mm,
removing non-value adding activities, streamlining things, reducing cost of doing things. Today we
mm,
talk about blockchains.
mm,
Blockchains. Nigeria has just introduced the e-naira. The e-naira operates on the blockchain technology. The whole idea here is that you want to reduce the cost of doing transactions. Today, we do transactions between banks. You're paying maybe 50, 53 naira for every transfer you make online. But as technology advances, as new technologies come into play, you begin to see these costs dropping massively, and that is the essence, basically. So for me, I think with automation, it only enhances the role of accountants in organizations and not a threat. We must deliberately make efforts to pick up these new skills to ensure that we will remain relevant in the scheme of things.
In other words, we must innovate even
Correct.
within our knowledge, which is exactly what our
Correct.
institute promotes by what we do on a regular basis, including this knowledge exchange here.
Correct.
If I may ask, and I know you went through that, what would be your advice to accounting professionals in embracing digital transformation? I ask that question because change is always there. People don't want to move with the new tech and what have you, and quite a number of us belong to that class. What would be your advice to us to embrace it much more?
Well, the reality is that there are we're all in different generations. Today we talk about the millennials. So an accountant who is a millennial will definitely not have challenges with adapting with into adapting the new technologies that we have, you know. But for those of us who will call the baby boomers, you know, we are referred to as more or less the aliens.
Hmm,
We're not the digital natives. It's important that we we pick up these tools. Try to be. We don't. You don't necessarily have to be a techie. There are techies that are doing these things. For example, we talk about different technologies, and all these different technologies have their roles in transforming businesses, in transforming business models. Um,
hmm,
Disruption. You need to disrupt every day. And for you to do this, you need to understand the roles of all this. For example, I mentioned blockchain. There's also what you call virtual reality. We do training programs. We want to um, do physical training programs, but you can actually virtually handle these training programs through virtual reality. Um, we talk about blockchains. I've talked about blockchains. Blockchains will ensure that we improve on security, reduce cost, and all that, and also have massive amounts of data that we can work on. We talk about payment systems. Today, there are different ways of. So basically, what I'm trying to say is that it is important as accountants to understand the interplay of all this. If you call yourself an auditor, you need to understand that there are different ways. In the old ways of doing things, you say we are auditing around the computer. But today we have tools for auditing within the computer. You get into the system, and through all sorts of queries that you can apply as accountants. I know the traditional tool that we used to use was ACL, audit command language, and all that. But today there are various other tools that auditors can use. For example, tax. In the area of tax, there are ways of ensuring that you use technology to improve on taxation. One key thing in taxation is the issue of identity management.
mm,
Um, we use technology in the area of identity management to identify people. When you're able to identify people, then you can trace the transactions they do. These transactions are done online on
mm,
the internet gateway. You
mm,
can have access to some of these things, and with that you can aggregate and you can know patterns. Mr. Debishe paid X amount of tax last year. He's into this, he's into that. There are ways of identifying. The key thing about taxation is identifying. If you invest heavily uh, in identification solutions, you'll be able to pull things together, and know exactly what people are doing. Patterns in the way, if I shop on Amazon, um, the next time I'm getting online, a lot of things are coming at me,
mm, mm.
to say, hey, you bought XYZ the last time. This time
Right.
around, can we offer you this? Now, all these
Right.
things is not based on the fact that it's based on artificial intelligence, it's based on data that you have, it's based on machine learning and all that. So many things that we talk about.
Mm,
Talk about robotics.
mm,
A number of people will probably not even know that a lot of organizations, especially banks, we today we use robotics. A lot of
mm,
things that we do online, it's actually robots that are responding to you.
mm,
You know, um,
mm,
you go to an ATM, you slot in your card. There's an error message. Your account is debited. A few seconds after, your account is credited back. It's a robot that is actually doing it to know that
mm,
So basically, there's just no way a human being can do that.
mm,
With the amount of data that is coming in every day for processing. So a lot
mm,
of repetitive tasks, you apply robots
mm,
to. So it's the digital economy is it's very very huge. Uh, the transaction volumes are increasing by the day. Lots of fintechs are coming into the different spaces, verticals, to provide services, that you and I would require. And the beauty about it is that things around uh, transactions can be between business and business, can be between business and government, can be
mm,
between business and consumers. So
mm,
all these have been taken care of in the digital economy through process improvements, through business models changing, by the day. So really, for me, I think it's very bright times for all of us as accountants. Opportunities are there. We should not shy away from it. We must continue to learn. It's only a dead person
Excellent.
not learn.
Excellent. I'm happy you're giving those insights to some of the things that Wema has been doing. Now, Mr. Olalere Babashola, one of our online participants, is asking, oh, okay, maybe we already looked at this, but he says, beyond the core accounting skills, what attributes and disciplines do you advise other accountants to imbibe to have an edge in the marketplace?
Well, accounting skills are just one. What is very important? You need to understand um, the concept of business models. I mean, we need to think like consultants. The concept of business models, how business models change.
Hmm,
Uh, for example, I talked about Netflix. Netflix is distributing films, online. It used to be in those days you go to the shop to get films, Betamax, and all these very old archaic ways of doing things. But that changed the business models. So
mm,
accountants must be very alert to understanding business models. There are skills around design thinking, knowing exactly um, what the customer requires and
mm,
designing things basically to fit that purpose. So the accountant must be very innovative, must be very creative, must be able to apply some rigor to think through things, not just the mundane, oh, keeping the books, getting out your reports, doing your budgets. Those are, yes, basic, but then they're not in the new dispensation. You need to be able to look at also data that you have. What does this data say?
mm,
And being able to analyze the data to come up with predictive insights,
mm,
say predictive analytics. You
mm,
know, data analytics is it's a very key thing that everybody is going into. We have people going for masters, PhD programs in the area of data analytics. And what that is implying is that the accountants will transform from being just bookkeepers
mm,
to being knowledge, advisors to consultants to the company by giving insights on how to reduce costs, on
mm,
how to maximize returns, on how
mm,
to improve operational efficiency,
mm,
and all that, and more importantly, how to understand the customer journey.
mm,
Every organization, every business has a customer. Being able to understand that customer journey and how to make it very easy along
mm,
the line. So, in terms of skills, you need to understand that yes, people must be trained. You need to new skills. You need to understand the fact that processes must be reviewed from time to time, and you need to understand the new technologies that are evolving.
mm.
With these three things, I have a background in consulting, so we always talk about people, process, technology. So
Yeah.
everything coming within those three. So once you're able to flow along those lines, you will be relevant going forward, and you will not be challenged or replaced as an accountant.
Again, comes back, Mr. Davis said to the by line, innovate or die. Knowledge
Innovation.
is power. And
Yes.
we accountants and the way we are structured and structuring ourselves, note that word, structuring ourselves, is that we are now shifting paradigms and ensuring that those skills are available to us online, real time. You've spoken about WEMA, spoken largely about what's been happening in the private sector. We turn to public. And I ask, what technologies do governments need to invest in to migrate to e-government?
Well, I think first of all, the political will is important that
Mm,
we need in government, and the need to understand the fact that the cost of doing running government must come down. A number
mm,
of all these things will require us going digital.
mhm.
Um, number of all the transactions that government does must go digital. But one
Right.
key thing that is very important is the area of identification. I talked
Mm,
about identity management.
mm,
Today we talk about NIN. The NIN. We talk in the banks. We use the BVN and all that. Abroad in the US, they talk about social security systems. What I think will happen is the governments need to invest heavily in that space, and not just playing lip service. We need to be able to integrate all these identity management systems, build the database to be able to, once you can identify somebody, that is the starting point of everything.
mm. Yeah.
If two countries are operating together, for example, in the area of tax, we talk about double taxation. How do you ensure that in the traditional mode, a government will collect tax if a transaction is taking place in his jurisdiction, you know,
mm,
states, for example, in Lagos State, um, you collect tax based on residency or whatever.
mm,
But in the digital world, everything is borderless.
mm.
So basically,
Course.
the starting point is identity. Once you're able to
Mm,
identify very, very uniquely, uh, the next thing is with the computer systems, you know exactly where transactions are taking place.
mm,
You
mm,
and with that, you can easily know who owns what. So there's
mm,
no issues around. Oh, I live in Ogun State, I work in Lagos, or all those things will not really, really matter. So talking
mm,
back again to governments, I've talked about tax, which is impacting revenues.
mm,
There's also the cost of doing things. So basically, government will need to run integrated ERP systems,
mm, mm,
enterprise resource planning systems that will tie things together, and all that, from budgeting all through to implementation. All
mm,
these can be tied together. It takes a lot of discipline and political will to do this. And honestly, I think it's something that is doable. It's
mm,
not. It's already been done in organizations in countries like in Singapore. Singapore is a country that largely, and also in the Nordic countries,
mm,
uh, there are countries where yeah, virtually their government's activities are all done digitally. So really,
mm,
there's really no um, it's nothing new per se. So government needs to invest heavily in this space, and more importantly, needs to. But one thing that is very clear is the internet gateway. We
mm,
have 774 local governments in Nigeria. There's a need for a, an internet pipeline across all the local governments
mm,
to ensure that we can easily push along this digital economy very,
mm.
very easily.
Excellent point. Poignant. Uh, and the way you have elucidated that is practically what we were all talking to government at our 51st Annual Accountants Conference, where, of course, professionals and those in government came on. And I'm happy that you are accentuating it. It's one of the things that we made point blank the political will to do, and that within that space, a lot of revenues can be made for government. ICAN is just waiting in the wind. Just tap, press the button for ICAN, and we will come giving you all resources, our human capacity that we have are plenty. Thank you very much. And if you are just joining us, I have been fielding questions to Mr. Ademola Adebise, the Managing Director of WEMA Bank, and we've been looking at this very germane subject of the role of accountants in a digital economy. We're giving a lot of expose on what we should do. We should innovate. We're ready to innovate. And if we don't do that, we'll die. Now, Mr. Adebisi, as you are aware, multinational companies pay taxes in an environment different from where they make profit, thanks to the emergence of this digital economy that we've been talking about. Now, how best can the government track and regulate this practice without breaching the double taxation treaty with other nations?
Well, we a lot of multinational companies operate in different jurisdictions, as I
Mm,
said, and with the digital economy, it is largely borderless. Um, if you We're all a living witness. Recently the African Free Trade Act and all that was
mm,
recently put in place. The technologies are being put together as we speak.
mm,
It was launched formally in Ghana, in Accra, Ghana last week. And what this means is that there could be cross-border transactions happening
mm,
and all.
mm,
Now,
mm,
multinationals can operate across Africa, and how do you ensure that you're able to keep track? The beauty of it is that um, you already have, um, yes, I mean, you can talk about the concept of residency, which we look at today, but because of digital, uh, everything is borderless. But the
mm,
beauty about it is that with identification, you can actually, on the net, know exactly where a transaction originated from.
mm, mm.
So
Very
if
interesting.
between the US and Nigeria transactions take place, you know exactly where it originated from on
Mm,
the system. So, and based on that, taxes can easily be separated and paid to the different locations without necessarily violating the double taxation treaty.
pretty,
Now,
right?
what is important also is the fact that the double taxation treaty needs to be reviewed, needs to be
Mm,
tweaked, for each of these countries, so that things like this can easily be dealt with. And that would mean that a number of connectivity is required also between the governments to ensure that this can easily be done without people playing pranks or trying to evade tax.
mm.
So that for
Beautiful.
me, that is with the digital economy is even easier to now implement, unlike in the traditional mode of thing, where the onus will be on the taxpayer to declare his returns.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm,
really,
mm.
with the digital economy, everything is on the net, everything is there, in the cloud.
And
You
it's
can easily
simplified
lay hands on it.
and it's simplified and easy to follow.
Exactly.
Thank you very much, Mr. Adebisi. I want us to look into the future and based on current trends and the rapid digitalization across sectors, professions, which we have dealt with um, in this our interview and educational awareness session. How will you describe the accountants of the future?
Hmm. The accountant of the future um, is not the accountants that will continue to look at the traditional way of doing things. The accountant of the future must have a creative mindset, must have an innovative mindset. The accountant of the future must understand um, the new ways of doing things, must understand the concept of business models, must know how to review processes and make processes more efficient. The accountant of the future must understand how to read data.
Hmm,
Basic, where we all do analysis, we come up with budgets, variances, we common size, and all that, all those analyses. Yes, the computer is doing that for us today.
hmm, hmm,
What beyond that, the accountant of the future must be able to tell us the patterns in this data.
hmm,
What I mean, I tell you one very good example that we did in the bank. We realized when your customer goes to the ATM of another customer, for example, or of
hmm,
another bank, the other bank is serving your customer. So you, as a bank, you have to pay the other bank
hmm,
for that service.
hmm,
What we then realized from our data was that we were at weekends. A lot of our customers are in one part of the town, and we realized that we're paying a lot to another bank.
hmm,
And what we then did was to identify that based on the data, the patterns. And then we
hmm,
went ahead and installed our own ATMs there. And that reduced the cost that we're paying to the other bank. Now,
hmm.
the only way you can do this is to read the data. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you just going blind, yeah, going crazy every day that, hey, your cost is rising and you can't do anything about it. But reading the
Hmm,
data patterns, we're able to take
hmm,
some action to
hmm,
reduce that. And that can operate also in different ways to different businesses,
hmm,
based on patterns. Maybe a
hmm,
particular customer is buying a particular product.
hmm,
Uh, you know, Why is he buying that product? What is peculiar about that product? Can you
mm,
can you review that product to target the segment of the market that that customer belongs to? You know,
mm.
all these things
Excellent.
are things that you can, the insights that data will give you when you are able to analyze the data.
Data analytics, innovation, predictive, not staying on Facebook. Thank you very much, Mr. Adebise. May I just ask you to give us your last word on this subject of the role of accountants in the digital economy?
I think the opportunities are there for us as accountants to be what I already said it in my opening remarks that the accounting profession, it's like picking an elephant in a room, and
Mm,
everybody is picking different type parts of it: the trunk, the tail, the leg, the doing different things. In the
mm,
same way, the
mm,
accountant will operate in the digital economy. All we need to do
mm,
is acquire the right skills,
mm,
have the right mindset,
mm,
um, the right mindset, pick up necessary skills, skills around design thinking, skills around data analytics,
mm,
skills around innovation. We talk about disruptive innovation.
mm,
Business models can change every day,
mm, mm,
depending on
mm,
things are happening so fast today.
mm,
So we must think like the millennials.
mm,
You know,
mm.
and the beauty about it is that curriculum in schools are now changing to integrate technology into it. Unlike in those days
Okay.
when I read computer science, it was seen as a cult. These are the special people. Just go to them. Everything was done in batch processing. You go to meet them. But today,
Thank you
everything
very much, Mr.
is,
Davis. Wonderful, it's been wonderful having you, and be sure that we are going to call on you more and more time, not being our friends on segments like this. Thank you very, very, very much. And in waving you by, I'd like to say to our audience, we are going to be back. Please, we are not going yet. Stay on. We'll be back with you very shortly. Thank you very much for staying on. And we'd like to tell you that this is a continuous process. We have this 2 times in a week, Tuesdays and Wednesday. And so our next episode will be on Tuesday, January 25, 2022. Then it will still be online on all ICAN online platforms. We will be taking the topic understanding VAT applications of cross-border transactions in Nigeria, simplification and registration regime for non-resident suppliers. And our guest will be Kainde Kaji Shomo, FCA, Deputy Director and Head of Treaties and International Tax Policy Division of FIRS. He's also lead negotiator for the technical team that negotiate tax treaties for Nigeria. You don't want to miss that. I leave you with this quotation. The digital economy must be built on decent work, which gives human dignity. And that is attributable to Guy Ryder, the Director General, International Labour Organization. As I always say, um, be the change you like to see. And I think I still have Mr. Adebise on. If Mr. Adebise is still on, yes, Mr.
Yes, I am.
Adebise, and we just rounding off and going off. Yeah,
Okay, I just want to thank you. Thank Mr. Kefatunke for inviting me for this program. It's a great honor to find me worthy to come on this program. I do not take it for granted. I've known Mr. Fatunke for years, being my respected senior at Baptist Academy, and of course, being colleagues at Lagos Business School. I think I want to thank you for this opportunity, and also want to thank the ICAN president for this great innovation. ICAN on air. I think this is coming in very novel. I want to thank her for this opportunity, and I hope this is sustained. For the good of our institutes. I want to just
thank
thank you.
you very much. Thank you very much. And of course, thanks go to my editorial team who are working behind this thing. And until we come your way, January 25, 2022, I remain yours sincerely, Akin Fatunke. Be the change you like to see. I remain your anchor, Icon on Air. Bye for now.